I fucking love this league. It's not trying to hide the simple notion that it's good old weekly entertainment at the end of the day. The end of the week. No wonder Las Vegas has a team now. I also love that the NFL has taken every given opportunity to shit on all our expectations. Any given Sunday, right? Who had a potential 16-win team on their bingo card? Thanks a lot, Broncos. Now try forcing a 14-win team to go on the road, more than likely throughout their stay.
Son of a bitch!
Maybe this is the year a wildcard team gets to host a playoff game. It very well could go in any direction imaginable. I know it doesn't look like it, but I've seen double-digit underdogs win games. And there's a million ways for a said team to pull that shit off when they're dead men walking. By this point, you can probably tell which of these teams I want to see hoist Lombardi in February, but the problem is that the big game this year is back in the voodoo capital of America, so that may throw a wrench or five into my hopes and dreams. Of course, that's not going to stop me from pulling off my own secret ritual in Iowa to try to make it happen. So before I potentially lose my house, why don't I get into my picks? 3, 2, 1, go! Houston, we have a problem. The AFC South Division once again belongs to the Houston Texans, but their Golden Goose and CJ Stroud has kinda hit a sophomore slump. They start the playoffs dead to rights as they draw to Los Angeles Chargers as their first opponent. I'm glad Jim Harbaugh's back in the NFL. He's proven he hasn't lost a step since his high-profile tenure at the Big House in Ann Arbor, with a bold win over the Broncos and stomping a doormat and the Patriots to the ground to end the year. The Bolts will have to go on the road, but it's in a city that absolutely cannot have nice things in the football world. Did you see them against Baltimore and KC? Harbaugh is not Brandon Staley, so I can see his football expertise extend all through his roster as the jolted Chargers offense easily runs over the Texans 31-20. Later that night, we should expect a visit from our friend John Dupay to just hang out and watch some Saturday Night Football, with the Baltimore Ravens playing host to that pesky divisional rival in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Steelers and Ravens.
Well, at least one of these teams is playing. Steeler football is a vicious cycle. Begin the year with hefty expectations, steal several wins with a dose of bullshit, proudly proclaim they're going to the Super Bowl, then have all their magic run out because Mike Tomlin is their head coach, and the team as a whole sets the standard at 9 wins. It's been kind of the opposite for the Ravens, starting slow with a few inexplicable losses, but getting this shit together at the right time. We should be taking these guys' results on Christmas Day as a clear indicator of how this is going to go. Ravens 41, Steelers 10. At Acrisure Stadium, the standard is the standard, unlike at Highmark where the Buffalo Bills are surely looking to exercise some demons. They'll start the redemption tour against the Denver Broncos, the recipients of this year's award for a surprise playoff team. Incidentally, these are the only two teams to beat the Chiefs this year, and even last week, Denver blew the fuck out of the second-string Chiefs squad, so that's gotta count for something, right? With new guy Bo Nix in tow, their window of contention should be gradually opening with every game he plays, but now is what really matters. It's been a struggle for the Bronx playing on the road, especially against playoff contenders, but the Bills are just built different. And especially since it's been getting rather cold, I think they'll show everyone why they're the second seed in the AFC with a convincing 27-13 victory. Thank goodness for being locked in at number 2, allowing them the de facto bye week, hence their obvious edge for the wildcard weekend. I'm dead serious, stop calling it Super Wildcard Weekend. There's nothing super about forcing the number 2 seed to play an extra game and risk getting more banged up than they may have already been. At least the Philadelphia Eagles have many of their starters rested up from last week, including the legendary Saquon Barkley, thank you very much, New York. It's their quarterback room that poses the most concern as they try to fend off the Green Bay Packers. Yes, they made it in this time, good job Titletown. I think the Packers look like a dark horse pick for the Super Bowl right now, but became victims of a stacked NFC North, hence why they're here. I would be saying as a counter-argument that it's the Eagles, but as of the time I'm writing this, there hasn't been any indication of Jalen Hurts clearing the concussion protocol. But let's be real, the sports world is cruel to its players. Far too often they would force players to play through injuries that would normally keep them out if the stakes weren't as high. Philly will probably do its best to put Hurts in against Green Bay, and because a hobble Jalen is better than no Jalen, he and the beast named Saquon will feast on the Acme Packing Company of Brown County, or at least do their best to contain the Packers. It sure helps that they're playing at the Link where no mortal wants to end up. I give it to the Eagles 24-21. I remember thinking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were just going to casually waltz into Philly and steal a win a few years ago. I should have realized that Father Time is undefeated. Thank goodness they've got some stability at QB with Baker Mayfield, but they've already got a big test ahead of them in the Washington Redskins, the Washington Commanders.
Hey, that really sucks!
The Capitol has had some pretty good fortunes lately, hasn't it? That's the kind of shit that happens when the guys at the top are competent. I just wish Josh Harris didn't have to fork over $6 billion to buy the team, but Jaden Daniels is another guy who has thrived in his first year. In his case, however, we know his true potential thanks to a standout game just a few weeks ago, whereas Tampa Bay largely benefited from a paper-soft end of their schedule and their biggest competition being Kirk Cousins. Yeah, no thanks. The Bucs probably gave themselves a little more life rising up to the number 3 seed, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. Jaden Daniels has a bevy of very underrated weapons to throw to, and he's going to ride them to a 30-20 road victory at Raymond James Stadium. Already feels like so much more than what Dan Snyder could accomplish. I gotta commend the Los Angeles Rams for rebounding after a slow start to the year to take back the NFC West. They're like my second favorite team in the NFL, and I like Matt Stafford, and Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams, and you get it, you're smart. Obviously, that means if the Minnesota Vikings were to fail again, then my hope rests solely on the Rams to stop Casey's inevitable three-peat. I just hope they don't have to face each other right away.
Son of a bitch!
What am I supposed to make of the Vikings now? Yeah, they had their greatest regular season since that year we don't talk about, but they were only supposed to win 6 or 7 games. Should I be concerned about them overachieving yet again? How much credit does the Darnold really deserve for all this team has done? I asked our Heavenly Father to keep up his shtick last time, and he went and did the opposite. And just last week, he also served up one of his patented blowout losses as Sonic's running back stopped all over him, some game of the year that was. That game was for a first-round bye. Their punishment for whatever you call that performance is getting stuck in whose house? Not the Rams' house. The game's being played in Arizona now. Of course, they still find a way to play football through this whole situation, which is some bullshit. Minnesota has to go on the road after having won 14 games. I really should bring myself back over to see this game too, as should the purple and gold be favored to beat the Rams, but again, it might not matter. Some things never change in South Canada. Now they might end up the winningest team to not even make the divisional round. The Rams have constantly been able to outlast this team since the shootout at the Coliseum, and Sean McVay pretty much has KOC figured out, since they were in the same coaching tree that won the Super Bowl. Not to mention Los Angeles has years of playoff pedigree, and they have fans now too. I was there in October where I casually watched the Rams rise on the third day, and I might be back there again to casually watch them assassinate our GQists by means of incessant face mask. You might have already been seeing ghosts all this last week, I'm just saying. 31-17 Rams. I should be able to avoid having to play Shadow the Hedgehog for at least 10 more years. I'd be shocked as hell if McCarthy actually develops properly. Alright, enough of my salt. Let's see how the Bills and the Ravens handle each other to begin the divisional round. Through the last month of the year, I kept arbitrarily picking Buffalo to at least make the Super Bowl for once, mostly because I kinda don't want to see the three-peat. Now with this matchup in tow, I'm not so sure. Both teams have one foe in common, the Kansas City Swifties. Last year, they both suffered crushing defeats at the hands of Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, so this whole year for both squads has been one long revenge tour. At least Buffalo derailed the Chiefs' perfect season back in Week 11 or so, but the Ravens didn't. They got edged out to begin the year. Now between Baltimore and Buffalo, it's a matter of, I don't really know. One thing's for sure, the Bills did beat the Lions once, thank you very much for helping set up the game of the year. Maybe not. Could the Ravens have pulled that shit off? With that utter lack of a defense, I don't think so. They may have ended the bullshit in Pittsburgh, but Buffalo is a real team. I think they'll come away with a franchise-defining victory at the last second, 34-31. No doubt this will give Lamar even more haters than he already had before, but hey, it's not my problem. I kinda think the Ravens should move on from Harbaugh. You can watch in disgust as the Kansas City Chiefs take on younger brother Jim and the LA Chargers for another round of Pat Mahomes asserting his divisional supremacy. Sorry, Justin, as much as we may want to see it, you're never out-dueling Patty Pathetic in the playoffs. You'll probably never see a home playoff game in your life either. Add to that the game being held at Arrowhead, the deafening crowd noise, and the cold-ass weather being thrown at the inferior SoCal team that can at least claim Los Angeles, and the long list of truly elite performers that the Chargers couldn't buy in their dreams. KC shouldn't really have to do much. They could toy with their prey for 3 quarters and still get an easy dub. 24-14 in favor of the Chiefs. Back over on the NFC side of things, the Eagles get to turn around and play the Rams, of course back at the link where all my hopes and dreams go to die. Crunky's beloved toy made for a good true Hollywood story with a 9-2 stretch to win the West, but this is the time of year where these stories just kinda dissipate. Once again, Philadelphia is a real team. It shows in how their defense has usually been able to contain the opposition. Also at this point, Jalen Hurts is probably back at full strength. And it's in Philly where it's going to be cold once again and the Rams are dead right where they stand, suffering a 34-13 defeat at the hands of the Eagles, who now gotta wait a little while for the Detroit Lions to handle their business over the visiting Washington Commanders. I finally got a harsh truth branded into my brain last week. As depleted as the Lions are defensively, it's never going to matter. Next man up has worked wonderfully for them as they probably lost even fewer games in a much longer stretch with their reinforcements as they did with their starters. Aiden Hutchinson better pray he still has a job next year. I'm only kidding. Seriously though, what can the other nice story and Jaden Daniels possibly do to catch up to the high-profile offense in Detroit? Brian Robinson is not Jahmyr Gibbs. He and the rest of the commies are not going to have a good time as the Lions maul them to death in a definitive 41-31 showing at the factory. Yeah, there's no way they look nearly as lost as the Vikings did in that one game, but it just won't be enough. Congratulations, here's your participation trophy, hopefully you'll be back soon. Uncharacteristic of me not to continue flip-flopping, but we know Championship Sunday is going to begin with the NFC as the Lions host the Eagles for a chance at February football in the Bayou. This has to be an offensive shootout, right? We don't really associate Detroit or Phillip with defense, even though, well, you know what I just said about the Eagles' D. They're probably going to score a lot of points on the Big Cats as Saquon Barkley rushes for 200 yards or so. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, you can probably expect them to chip in as well. Here's the dildo. Detroit's going to be mighty fine with giving up 38 points. It's just part of their game, and they've been playing it consistently. It just doesn't matter how badly the depleted defense bends a knee. Next man up, Northern Savages, bite him at the kneecaps, all that hoopla. The Lions have too many of their own weapons to let Philly soar above them. They are at home, you know. Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the aforementioned Jahmyr Gibbs. They're all going to combine for an impressive 44 points and clip the Eagles' wings that way. I was really hoping they'd wait for the Vikings to reach the big game before the Lions did, but of course, fuck me, for one. And the Lions are probably the most dominant team with the most respected coach in the league, like it or not. They just gotta wait a little bit as the Chiefs and Bills take care of business. Pat Mahomes and the inferior Josh Allen have a weird dichotomy. Their matchups always generate a lot of press because of how legendary these guys have been so far and the roles in reviving their respective franchises from the ashes. It's just that one of them has been at the top of the NFL world for most of his career, and the other has been slamming right into the former in his own vain attempt to get there. Not anymore. Buffalo had a shitload of questions heading into 2024 following Wide Right 2.0, but they've answered nearly all of them so far in convincing fashion, besting both Kansas City and Detroit earlier in the year. We feared that they'd never be able to recover from yet another devastating playoff exit last year, but here they are back at the AFC Championship game with every intention of slaying their demons. I said it a couple years ago, this is the part of the year where the Chiefs get cocky and Pat tries to force plays to his boyfriend Travis Kelce to the very end. Didn't see that one coming, did you, Tay-Tay? Bills fans really made a lolcow move by essentially forcing the league to change the overtime rules come playoff time, and now they get to see them backfire spectacularly on the Chiefs. It doesn't matter if the coin toss goes to KC, Buffalo desperately needs this win. They want it. They can taste it. They finally have the chance to snatch it, and they'll get it by winning a 36-35 overtime thriller. It's going to happen at some point, so why not this year? Really though, why not this year? This is the perfect time to pick two teams that have never taken home Lombardi. I bet you like to see that I agree with a bunch of you this time. It's gonna pain me to say it, but there just isn't any more reasonable matchup for Super Bowl 59 than the Detroit Rock City Kiss fans versus the Buffalo that Buffalo. If I were lazy, I'd use their Week 15 matchup to determine how this would go. I just assumed Dan Campbell was going to rear his ugly head again like in San Francisco last year. There's a reason why I dreaded having to play the Lions all year. Look at this shit from after the game. This is a team that has all the chemistry you could ever ask for. Every damn player, every damn coach on this roster is an important cog in the big blue machine that's put up the best damn season in franchise history and fought tooth and nail to earn their place in NFL lore. They play with an unmatched swagger, running over the competition with the wheelbarrows in which they carry their gargantuan family jewels. They have already put the rest of the league on notice over the 4 years that Dan Campbell has been leading them, and on the grandest stage of football in New Orleans, they will make their presence known worldwide and claim their long-awaited title for Detroit with a 38-31 Super Bowl win. I might be a salty bitch, but I'd still take this result over a Chiefs three-peat. At least the whining coming from fans in the Motor City would go away for a little bit. So I've been wagering a complete 100% playthrough of Shadow the Hedgehog if any of my local major sports teams ever win a championship, i.e. Vikings, Twins, Timberwolves. Don't get me wrong, I really want to see them win. I'm just trying to pull the closest thing I can to selling my soul without actually selling my soul. I appreciate all your pill pushes as I dive alone into the unforgiving abyss, never forgetting deep in my heart that Joe Buck is awesome.